Hey folks, Ed here from Brain Pulp TV. It is July 8th, 2017, the opening day of the Hour of Devastation pre-releases, and that means we have some product to open up. Now, we've already opened up one of the Planeswalker decks, the Nissa Planeswalker deck, but today we're going to be opening up the Nicol Bolas, the Deceiver Planeswalker deck. Now, these Planeswalker decks have been released for several sets now, so they're not super new, so you probably have heard of them before, but if not, these are 60-card legal decks which feature a deck-specific Planeswalker, which is not the same kind that you can open up in the regular packs of Hour of Devastation, and they replaced the intro packs, or the intro decks, that used to be released by Wizards of the Coast with each new set. As well, these decks contain 4 cards, other than the Planeswalker itself, that are specific to this deck that you will only find within this deck and not in the regular packs from this set. I will go over those cards specifically when I get into the deck itself. And the other thing is, it also contains 2 booster packs, which we will be opening up at the end of this video. And as a last side note, Travis and I will battle it out between Nicol Bolas and Nissa's Planeswalker deck in an upcoming episode of the Mana Cave. If you're unfamiliar with the Mana Cave, I will put a link up in the corner that will take you to one of the episodes. But it's basically where Travis and I play live, paper magic, record it, and put it on YouTube for you guys to enjoy. Okay, now enough talking. Let's start cracking open this box and we can see what's inside and what cards are in the deck itself. Okay, first let's get... Oh wow, that just came right out. Normally you have to sort of pop it out. This was already sort of out of the packaging. Makes my life a little bit easier. I'm just going to zoom in here for just a sec. Okay, so Nicol Bolas the Deceiver is a whopping 8 CMC, 5, a blue, a black, and a red. Gets you a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Its +3 is each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. His -3, which he can do right when he hits the board, is destroy target creature, draw a card, which is very powerful. And his -11 is Nicol Bolas the Deceiver, deals 7 damage to each opponent. You draw 7 cards. So one of the interesting things is that with these Planeswalkers from these Planeswalker decks is that they've yet to come out with one that has an actual emblem. It's usually an effect for its ultimate. So the effect seems quite nice in this. And the other thing is he only requires 2 of his pluses before he's going to be able to get himself up to that 11 range. So the third turn that he's out, he could actually pull off his ultimate, which is kind of nice. But the main thing for me is the fact that right when he hits the board, destroy target creature, draw a card. That's a very, very good ability. I mean, granted, he costs 8 to get out there, so it's going to be a while before you can get him out in a game. But I do like a lot of the design of these Planeswalker cards, but they're purposely costed high so that they're not going to be anywhere near as powerful as the main cards that you can open up in actual packs of each of these sets. Still, I like Nicol Bolas. We're going to set him aside for now, though, and start talking about the deck itself. First and foremost, and I mentioned this, with each of these Planeswalker decks, and as well, too, with the most recent dual decks, they've started creating these boxes, which has wonderful artwork, as you can see, these deck boxes, and they've started creating them so that they fit sleeved cards, which is really nice because I never understood why they would create deck boxes that fit non-sleeved cards, especially for sets and decks like this, which you may want to sort of keep on the shelf and just play around with for fun. It would be nice to be actually able to sleeve them and set them aside for when, maybe you have friends over who you want to try to introduce to the game or something like that. But they have gone the direction of making these boxes for sleeved cards, and I think that's a very, very smart thing to do. Now, here is the deck itself. We are going to get into that in just a second. We do get 2 packs of Hour of Devastation, which I mentioned before. The quick reference guide, which is a great little thing to put beside yourself if you're learning Magic or if you're sort of coming back to the game after a long absence. Very, very useful. And a pullout here, like a poster type thing, which gives information on the Planeswalker. It's going to have some artwork of the Planeswalker as well, too. A bit more information on the back, including, if it focuses, a deck list for what goes in this deck in case you decide to dismantle it and you want to put it back together, which makes that easier to do. So I'm going to set this aside here. But of course, the main thing we want to talk about is the deck itself. So I'm going to fully read off the rares. I'm going to fully read off the 4 cards which are specific to this deck as well too. And then the rest I'm just going to I'll read off their names, but yeah, otherwise I'm just going to sort of gloss through it. One of the things I mentioned in the previous one is that the specific cards to this deck, you're not guaranteed to get a playset of in these decks, and that I don't understand. I think if you're going to create cards that are only going to be in something like this, in a product like this, you should at least give players the opportunity to have a playset of it right off the bat. But that's Wizards' decision. It's not mine, sadly, so not much I can do about it. Okay, to start things off, we have our first rare from this deck, which is Emmet Eternal. For 2 and 1 black, it gets you a 5/5 Zombie Crocodile Demon, which is a great combination. It's got Afflict 3. Afflict is, man, playing against decks that have Afflict in the pre-release was not a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun to play, but Afflict is definitely a powerful little mechanic. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a -1/-1 counter on Emmet Eternal. When it deals combat damage to a player, remove all -1/-1 counters from it. So, kind of a cool card. You get one of those. Throne of the Pharaoh God is a rare legendary artifact. For 2, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life. Each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. I sort of tapped into my inner hoser there for a second. We have Vestige of Bolas, which is one of the cards specific to this particular deck, and it is a 4-cost artifact. When Vestige of Bolas enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Nicol Bolas, the Deceiver, reveal it, put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. And you can tap this for either blue, black, or red. One of the most reasonably costed tutors, I think, from these Planeswalker decks for only 4, and it becomes a mana rock, which is cool. You're going to have 2 copies of it. Yeah, see, this one especially, I think, would benefit from putting 4 copies in, not just because it would then give players a playset of something specific to this deck, but I think this would be very, very useful to help you try to ramp up and get Nikki out onto the field. However, it is what it is. I do like this. This is probably one of my favorite tutor cards that they've come up with. So as far as a design aspect, I think this is a really nice one for one of these Planeswalker decks. Now, we've gone through the rares there, so we're just going to quickly read off the other cards in this deck. We have Kenra Eternal. Okay, I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. Get 3 of those. This is one of the cards specific to the deck. Wasp of the Bitterand. For 1 and 1 black, it's you a 2/1 Flying Insect Horror. Whenever you cast a Nicol Bolas Planeswalker spell, you may sacrifice Wasp of the Bitterand. If you do, destroy target creature. That's a nice little ability for it to have, and only 3, of course, because it would kill them to put in a 4th one. And Burning Fist Minotaur, which is a not specific. I don't think this is this the specific one? I can't remember. No, it's not. This is not the specific one. So Burning Fist Minotaur, so 2 of them. Aerial Guide, 2 copies of that. Eternal of the Harsh Truths, 2 copies. Marauding Bone Slasher, get 2 copies. Zealot of the Pharaoh God, this is the other creature which is specific to this deck. It is a 4/3 for 4, 3 and 1 red gets you a Minotaur Archer, and you can pay for 1 red, and it's going to deal 2 damage to target opponent, and you're going to get a playset of that one, which is nice. Manticore Eternal, 2 copies of that. Cinder Barrens is the land specific to this deck. You are not going to be able to get this in regular packs, and it enters the battlefield tapped, and you can tap it for either black or red mana. You're going to have 4 of those. And you get Crypt of the Eternals. Crypt of the Eternals, when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap it, add colors to your mana pool, or pay 1 and add blue, black, or red. So they're really doing a good job of enabling you to be able to, and you get 4 copies of that, to be able to get Nicol Bolas out on the battlefield as quickly as possible, not get color screwed or mana screwed. You're going to have a bunch of islands, swamps, and I'm guessing mountains. Yes, indeed, mountains. And there we go. One of my favorite cards from, as far as the commons go, from Amonkhet, Supernatural Stamina. Magma Spray. You're going to get 2 copies of that. Open Fire, which did a ton of damage to me, or specifically my creatures, like in the pre-release. So it's still doing work. It's just doing it for 2 more than a Fireball will. So Fireball? No, 2 more than a Lightning Bolt will. Anyways, and I think we finish off with 3 copies of Final Reward, not Final Removal. Worst time talking ever. And yeah, so some good, solid, straight-up removal. And it exiles the target creature. It does not simply destroy them, so that's going to be very useful for a lot of the gods that are in the sets. Okay, so now it is time to open up the 2 packs of Our Devastation that comes with the I was going to call it a pre-release kit. It's not a pre-release kit. It is a Planeswalker deck. Because there are only 2 packs, I'm going to read off the name of the commons and uncommons as well, too. And I'm just going to fully read off the rare. Now, we have Aerial Guide, Dutiful Servants, Frontline Devastator, another card with Afflict, which is a great, great mechanic in this set. Ambuscade, Grizzly Survivor, Oketra's Avenger, come on, focus, Gift of Strength, Crash Through, a Out of Focus Strategic Planning, Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs. Our first uncommon is Bloodwater Entity, a card I quite like that I got to open up and play with in my pre-release kit. Saving Grace, Vizier of the Anointed, and our rare is, if it can stay in focus, the Scorpion God, a mythic. Wonderful. I opened up the Locust God in my pre-release kit, so I'm happy to get a copy of the Scorpion God as well, too. For 3, a black and a red, you get a legendary creature god. It is a 6/5, and whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, draw a card. You can pay 1, a black and a red, put a -1/-1 counter on another target creature. When the Scorpion God dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So these gods are very, very good, and they're very tough to get rid of, so happy to open up a copy of the Scorpion God. We have Plains and a Zombie token. Okay, moving right along to our last pack from these Planeswalker decks. In the past, I've opened up some pretty impressive cards in these Planeswalker decks, so I'm not holding my breath because I think I've used up all my luck in the previous Planeswalker deck openings that I've done, the ones from Amonkhet. We have Frontline Devastator, Unquenchable Thirst, a card I quite like to play in my pre-release, Mummy Paramount, Focus, Grizzly Survivor, Without Weakness, Defiant Kenra, Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs, Cunning Survivor, Survivor's Encampment, Magmaroth, that was the first uncommon, Steward of Solidarity, Overcome, a card that wrecked me in the pre-release in 2 games. So I think this is a very good card. I hate it, though. And our rare is Grind to Dust. So the Grind ability is is a sorcery speed for 1 and 1 black. Put a -1/-1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And its Dust is 3 and 1 white, gets you an Aftermath, cast a spell only from your graveyard, then exile it. Exile any number of target creatures that have -1/-1 counters on them. So, interesting little split spell there. And we have a foil Sunset Pyramid, another card which I ended up running in the pre-release, which was useful specifically in the deck I was running, because I was running a deck with the Locust God, and being able to draw extra cards when you have that card is wonderful. So it looks pretty nice as a foil there. The sort of devastation in the background there. Very cool. Very, very cool. We got a mountain and another one of these things, which I'm not super crazy about them printing, but whatever. So there you have it, folks. That was both the Nicol Bolas, the Deceiver Planeswalker deck, as well as what we got in our 2 packs, including one of the new Mythic gods in this set. So I'm pretty happy about that. We also got an extra foil and another fun little rare. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you want to tell me what you opened up, either in your Planeswalker decks, your pre-release, whatever, any of the packs you might open up from Our Devastation, please let me know in the comments section below. You can also contact and follow us directly on Twitter at BrainPulpTV. I almost forgot the Twitter handle. Or you can follow me on Twitter at GeekTragedy. And now with all that said, take care, everyone. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, doing everything you guys do to support the channel. It means a lot to us here. May all your pulls be mythics, and I'll see you all again real soon.